it's okay to be rejected. Like I really had to learn I will be rejected, but that's okay, because 9 times out of 10, that person, not 9 times, 10 times out of 10, that person, I just say 9 times out of 10 because it sounds cool, but this is like all the time. 10 times, anyways, 10 times out of 10. This, like, the person that's rejecting you most likely has issues within themselves. There's most likely an insecurity in themselves that they're seeing in you, or they're like, or they just don't like that kind of, and that's okay. They don't have to. Like, they're not rejecting you as a person. It really is just an inability for them to receive who you are, and that's okay.
Welcome back to Soul Talk by Mdrn Woman with me, Aleshia Nicole. And for me, when I hear a story that I can identify with, it really gives me a sense of camaraderie, letting me know I'm not alone. And I believe that this particular series on being yourself and letting your light shine has been that for me. I have been inspired, I've been encouraged, and there's been really a sense of sobriety about the importance of what it means for me to live out my own journey in the Lord, and what it means for me and future generations. I know we talked about that in the previous episode, and recently in my own life, I have really been struck by the power of the testimony of my ancestors and what they gave for me to be where I am, not from a sense of I just owe them this and I don't want to disappoint them, but just knowing the blessing of what it means to be alive. Who knows how many generations of people stopped because the last person in that generation passed away at some point, but I am a living legacy for a people who did not have an easy life. It was a long, hard road that led to me being able to live and share my story. And there's value in that. And I want to live authentically who I am so that I can create a space in the world for my children and my children's children to have a legacy that they love, that they can continue. Because the power of what is in our generations, the power of what God created each of our families to do and each of us to bring to the table as individuals is momentous. And I've really been encouraged to value that through this series. So it is bittersweet for me because this interview with Hawi has been so life-giving. And again, I know listening back, I've been inspired, and I hope you have too. I just really encourage you, as you're listening through this episode and contemplating what you've learned in the series, to take some time and think about what it means for you to live who you are. Any area where you've compromised, any area where your identity may be hazy, and any area where you see that you've grown and you want to celebrate that and take those things to the Lord. Have a conversation with Him about it, because I know there are even more wonderful aspects of your identity and your being that
it does. Just the mere fact of letting go of these ideals that you've held on to for so long to try to protect this image of who you are supposed to be. That process itself inwardly is extremely challenging. But then externally,
You said it right.
I said, okay, on the outside, like it can, people will reject you. Jesus, is still being rejected how many thousands of years later by billions of people. That did not change the fact that He came, He saw, and I was about to say He came, He saw, He conquered. Anyways, He came and He was, He said, I am, that was Yahweh, this is I am that I am. He said that a lot of things about that I am. In John, He says, I am, those I am statements. And it didn't change, it did not change the fact that He was going to continue to be all that God had designed. Yes. You know what I mean? So it's you are going to be rejected in this journey. I have experienced a lot of rejection. And that's one of the things that I've had to constantly overcome because of the fact that, when I first got saved, I was literally I was so on fire and like you think I'm passionate. And back then, I remember I went to Howard, HU, you know. So like at Howard, on the yard, I remember one day I was just, Lord, I just gonna worship you, and we're gonna take this campus, and this is gonna be revival. And so I went in the middle of the yard, and for 2 hours I just worshiped by myself loudly, and I cannot sing. Like I actually, that is not a gift from that is not a gift of mine. I love to worship, but so I was singing very badly, off key, and I was singing all the, back then it was the Jesus culture songs, like so I was doing all that, and it was like people like recording me and like putting me on Twitter or whatever. And then I did not care, because I genuinely was like, you need to know who Jesus is. Like, it's not about me. You need to know. So I was very like passionate and zealous to get the name of the Lord into everyone's like hearts, and just for them to know him. And he like, so people would call me like Hawi the evangelist, but I was also very like bubbly and like happy go lucky. And I was so naive. And like, I mean, I was very naive. Like I believed the best in anyone. Like you could tell me that you were related to Barack Obama, and I would be like, wow, that is so cool. Like, I would not ask for any type of like verification or anything. Like I just was genuinely very childlike. But that came at a price, like you said. And so, I would get picked on a lot. And this also is how I was receiving things. So it's not, my community is great. It's not because of them or anything. Like, this is just how I was receiving it. Like being that emotional and that passionate and that like, yes, all that. Like I am very emotional and very sensitive. And back then I didn't know how to manage it. So it was like, I'm here, here's my heart. It's on, on every sleeve that I own. And like, literally you can take it and I will be just happy to give you whatever, to get back whatever you give me. And that eventually in the long run, like it just did not work. So needless to say, I was just constantly getting rejected. I would put in more in relationships than I was getting out. I was like, I just had like, I'm like, yo, like I did all this for you and you like don't even acknowledge me as like a friend. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's just a lot of instances where I thought that people were my friends. And then there was this whole thing in it was a long story, but there was a lot of broken relationships because of something that had happened, a situation. And everyone that I had like literally like laid my life down for, and I'm like, oh, we're friends. I'm just disappeared, and that mixed with a lot of things that were going on in my family at the time. I literally one day, I don't even know when it happened. I just shut down. And when I say I shut down, like I shut down. I went home and I stayed home for like 2 years. When I say home, I mean like I just like inwardly in myself. I disappeared. I stopped connecting with people. And another aspect of it was that, again, like being this joyous, full of life, bubbly, energetic person, you don't get taken seriously a lot of times, so I was like, again, it was all in good fun, but like I was getting like, I wasn't getting bullied because it was in good fun. It was nothing malicious, but it was a lot of like, oh, that's Hawi, like kind of how you said, like that's Hawi, and that there's, that's graceful Hawi. And I'm putting graceful in quotation marks because I was very clumsy. And so still am, but it's all good. And so there was like those labels, like because I was so sensitive, they were getting to me, and that offense would just build up because I would just be like, oh, they're just kidding. But I kept connecting that hurt and that offense to my identity. So it was like the two started to become one. So I withdrew because I'm like, there's something wrong with me, because people don't. And this is, again, my perspective. It's not the community. I love my community. They're great. But it was like, people are not respecting me. People just keep making fun of me. People, when you get in by yourself, you're just like, there's people in the corner. Like, they're just so in the dark. Like, but anyways, so there was a lot of that going on. And when that happened, I really lost myself, because then I was like, okay, I'm going to be quiet and reserved, and I'm going to be this respectable person, I started looking at other people and I'm like, this person gets a lot of respect, or this person gets people listen to this person. Cause I was in a leadership role as well in a community. So I was like, I'm like, this person, when they speak, everyone listens. They take them serious. So I'm going to start acting like them, or I'm going to start taking on their traits. And like, just, it was a really, and when I said that, it took 2 years for me to get out of that. Then it got to a point where people were like Howie, like this, like who, like, are you good, bro? Like, what's going on? Like, I remember in one of our meetings for the leadership team, I was like, I called out kind of, because it was like, yo, like you just became a whole different person. And like you, like, we don't know how to interact with you anymore, pretty much. You know, it was really cynical. And at that point, you know, I was like, this is who I really am. Like, you just better deal with it. You know, I was like, I can, what's the word? I'm feisty. I'm very feisty. So I was like, you're not about to call me out, and I'm not about to say nothing. Like, so, you know, but it was an excuse. It was just an excuse to validate me hiding in that offense. And that offense, I think for a lot of people, not just myself, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, where it's like that offense can cause a wall around who you really are and your personality, because you don't want to get hurt again. But take Jesus, who is the author and the finisher of our faith. Like I said, he's still being rejected 2,000 years later.
Yeah.
More people than not. And even the people that claim to follow him aren't really following him. So now I'm just keeping it real. Like,
no, you're right.
Like 10% are really actually following him the way that we're supposed to be following him, the way that the early church was following him. So it's like it's okay. I had to learn it's okay to be rejected. Like, I really had to learn I will be rejected, but that's okay, because 9 times out of 10, that person, not 9 times, 10 times out of 10, that person, I just say 9 times out of 10 because it sounds cool, but this is like all the time. 10 times, anyways, 10 times out of 10. This, like, the person that's rejecting you most likely has issues within themselves. There's most likely an insecurity in themselves that they're seeing in you, or they're like, or they just don't like that kind of, and that's okay. They don't have to, like, they're not rejecting you as a person. It really is just an inability for them to receive who you are. And that's okay. Because again, you don't have to be received by everyone. You don't have to be liked or loved by everyone, especially if the forerunner of our faith is not, you know? So I really had to learn. I had to learn a lot of stuff, man. I'm still unfolding. Because when I say 2 years, I literally just broke out of this, like, the middle of last year. Yeah. So it's still an ongoing process, but you know, it is a lot of just drink some tea, read your Bible, and enjoy this time with the Lord. I like coffee. So just enjoy. That's the biggest word, is just enjoy the process of this journey, because it, you know. Anyways, wait, I was trying to say something. Oh, I learned to love unconditionally and fearlessly. That is the biggest lesson that I learned. Because the reason I was getting offended is because I was holding on to expectations. Like, you should be treating me this way.
Yeah.
So, whew.
So your process of going through that experience of rejection and being who you are, it being challenging, and the whole 2-year process of trying to be somebody else and then coming out of that still worked out in a way, worked out meaning you grew from it, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It built like it built a structure in me that is now allowing me to receive this revelation about who I actually am. Because even when I was that person back then, a lot of that was coming from expectations that other people had of me. Like, the source of that personality was not from within myself in Christ. It was external. It was like, this is what they're expecting. I'm supposed to be the life of the party. I'm supposed to be clumsy. I'm supposed to be happy-go-lucky. Like, I have to love, I have to evangelize. Like, these things, like, it started to become an obligation and no longer a part of my personality. So I'm so grateful for that 2-year process because it broke down that obligation. It's like, you know how Jesus says that a seed must die before it can actually produce trees and fruit or whatever? Like, it was that process. It was like, there's this thing, there's this personality that I have, or this who I'm thinking that I'm supposed to be again. And it had to die in order for it to really take root in the good soil. Because before it was in that hard soil. It was easily like choked up by the cares of the world. But now it's in good soil. It's still growing. I mean, I probably got a little leaf here and there, I ain't no tree, okay? But like, now it's in good soil and it's gonna bear good fruit. Versus before, it wasn't taking root in anything because it was dependent on the external sources. And so I think that I know I grew so much because now I'm learning not to have expectations in relationships and just loving because I want to love. Like, it's a choice now. It's not by force, It's a choice. No one's forcing me to be a certain way. Like, I'm choosing. If I want to be alone, I'm going to be alone. And that's okay. Like, I like being alone sometimes. Sometimes I like being with people. Sometimes I don't like being with people. That's okay. Like, it's just, again, like I said, just being compassionate and that, learning to love myself as I'm growing. I'll say that's part of what I've learned.
That is, amen. Yeah. Hawi, this has been such a rich time. Well, number one, thank you so much for your forthrightness and being so open to share your story because, it's a whole other thing to live it and another thing to put it out there for everybody else. And I'm really encouraged by, what you're sharing about how you went through that period of darkness and came out on the other side and how you grew from it, because I think that's the thing that people need to hear and know that, like, it's okay and normal and it's going to happen to have mishaps and have issues and have to work out who you are. And sometimes that process is not pretty. It's hard. But also typically, at least in my experience, is bringing up stuff that was there all along that had to be dealt with.
Yep.
So there's this one time the Lord showed me this beautiful picture of me, like, this is how I see you. And right after that, like, I started to deal with everything in me that didn't see myself that way. And we're still walking through it. But then once one aspect of, like, this is Aleshia, it's solidified, I'll never lose it because of how I, quote unquote, how I got it. So
that's so good.
I love your story, Hawi. It's awesome. And
thanks, Aleshia. No, Aleshia, what? Sorry, I said your name wrong. Aleshia.
Okay. There's like 1,000 ways.
There's only one right way. I want the truth, the way, and the life. I didn't even get that right. Whatever. Anyways.
Well, I think that is going to wrap us up for this series. Again, thank you, Hawi. It was amazing recording this with you today. So this we're getting to have it all in one session, but everyone else gets to get it in a probably about like 4-part series. So yeah, guys, Hawi, show her some love on social media if you can find her.
I was about to say, wait, what is my social media? Let me get back to you on that. Wait, are you asking me? Sorry, I'm confused.
No, it's okay. I was just saying it. I can put it in the
good. Okay, I don't even remember what it is. Like, it's been so long. I need to get back on. Anyways, this journey.
You're good. Yeah. So this has been so fun and so rich, and I just want to encourage everybody, with this whole aspect of letting. Being fully who you are, like, it's a good thing. I think today's this series is really focusing on what it means to discover who you are for yourself. And actually, it's turning out a little bit differently than how I planned, but I love it because I always ask the Lord to, like, whatever you want to share, whatever you want to get through, in these sessions, let it come out. And I think that what you really tapped into, Hawi, was that internal struggle that we go through to die to who we think we should be and know who we are and be willing and have the bravery and the courage to walk it out, because it does take courage to discover who you are and to live it. And it's, in a world where there's this whole image of like, this is who you should be, this is who you should be, and I'm not living up to that. Or to learn like, man, I've been, those of us who've been talked down to our whole lives, or just never had, sometimes you're not talked down to, no one just really spoke into your identity, and you don't know how to see yourself any way than that, other than that. It's a scary thing. And then there are people I know who have they have a lot of confidence. They are fully themselves. They've never had an issue with becoming, but still that whole comparison of, well, I should be here, I should have already accomplished, can be really challenging. So I think that a big part of what's coming out, the moral of today's story is live your life with the Lord, enjoy the journey, trust him to help you become who you're becoming, and know that it's a process and it's a good one. And I think my hope is that this series really creates a lot of questions and turns people, like, gets us to go to God and have those conversations, because that's where it's really settled.
That's good.
Because we didn't really talk about, all the internal part about what that conversation with the Lord is like. And we've talked about it and given examples, but we didn't get into depth about that. And I think there's a reason for it too. I think the Lord wants to tell you.
Like you said, it looks different. There's no formula for it at all.
Principles and some patterns, but not a formula. We're gonna have to walk, and that's why we're doing it together. That's why we're doing it in community. We can support one another, support each other as we walk it out. So, all right, before we start a whole nother recording, wrap us up. Thank you, everybody, and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
What a wonderful wrap to this series, Hawi. Thank you so much for being so honest and so passionate and so willing to share your testimony to empower others. Girl, you are amazing. All right. And listen, every series has been special and powerful in its own way. Thank you, Cara, Wendy, Melanie, and Hawi, for being amazing guests, wonderful sisters, and sharing your stories and your heart. So this is the official end of season 1 of Soul Talk by Mdrn Woman, but it is not the end of this podcast. We're going to be back in fall with season 2 of Soul Talk, and we're going to be talking about, season 2 is about dating in the modern world as a modern woman. Now, I am personally surprised that this is what we're going to be talking about, because I, guys, have never dated. I am 35 and I have been single my whole life. And so I thought it was very ironic that the Lord was like, hey, this is what you're going into next. I mean, just every time I would ask, so many downloads and ideas about it. But here's the thing, being a single, contemporary, Christian woman in the modern world, a Christian modern woman in the modern world, is challenging, because we are forward thinking, avant-garde. We are also living in this age a lifestyle that people really think is archaic, and the world ain't having it for the most part. So we are women who are full of life, full of zest, full of the love and power of God, full of forward-thinking ideas, but also really committed to a life that is honoring to the Lord. And really and truly what's honoring to God is good and for our own benefit. So we're going to be talking about topics that honestly for me, as I've been growing up as a Christian young woman, have been hazy. Like, should you date or not? Is dating okay or not? Is it valuable or not? What is this whole thing about dating? Is God for it or not? Is there the one? Should I even be looking for the one? Do I choose? Does God choose my husband? And then what is safe dating tips? How do you have a good date Even though I am single, I've had a lot of time to think about what I want in this area of life. And that is another bone I want to pick, because a lot of times we are not told that you can really consider the kind of experience that you want to have in searching for, preparing for, and entering into a relationship with the man that you want to live your life with, and that you get to have control over that narrative too. So we're taking the control back over that narrative, and I have some wonderful guests lined up and some wonderful topics and things that we're going to talk about. Women who have experience, right, with dating, but also women full of wisdom and life and truth who are in the same boat that you are, okay? And we're going to be talking with you about steps that you can take, habits you can establish, things that you can do to really create that area of life the way that you want it to be, in a way that's honoring to God. God has something to say about it, and it tends to be very different than what we think he does. You know, God has something really wonderful in store for you in the area of relationships and marriage, and your story is your own unique story. Your story is not going to be mine, nor vice versa, but there are some godly principles and takeaways from the word and from the things that he's taught us in his word that can make this a really wonderful experience. And listen, I am excited about it, because who doesn't want to have an empowering, wonderful, life-giving, enjoyable fairy tale story, you know? And I can't guarantee that the fairy tale is going to be all roses and no hardship. But what I can say is that God is really wonderful about crafting a love story that is specific for you, and he wants that for you. And we're going to talk about how to get it. So I'm not trying to take and steal the thunder from any other dating books and series and things like that. Listen. And also, one of the things that I'm big on is not giving you the answer. We're going to share our own perspectives and stories, give you principles and guidelines that you can follow that we have found from living out the word of God are helpful. And then I'm going to encourage you to take what you learn and go to God yourself and walk out this journey with him. But hey, again, Mdrn Woman is a community where we get to walk it out together and support each other. And so I'm so excited to see all the good things that are going to come from these conversations. All right, guys. So you want to know when season 2 is going to be coming out? You need to follow me on Facebook and Instagram and check out the YouTube channel so that you can stay in the know. I am so excited to have you as a part of this community. I'm so excited for where we're going and what we're going to be talking about here soon. And I'm looking forward to bringing season 2 to you. So thank you so very much for being a part of the conversation and the story today. And for all of my friends and listeners who have been with me from the beginning, a special thank you to you. I value and treasure the fact that you're allowing me and my friends to have a seat at your table and to become a part of your story. All right. We love you guys, and we will catch you in season 2. Bye.